Hi, my name is Rosario Moreno. This is my third attempt at this. My dog's acting crazy and barking. So I'm going to go over APA Reflection 7, Self-Directed Learners. The three principles, APA principles that I'm going to discuss further are Principle 7, Students' Self-Regulation Assists Learning, and Self-Regulatory Skills Can Be Taught. Principle 1, Students' beliefs or perceptions about intelligence and ability affect their cognitive functioning and learning. And Principle 6, clear, explanatory, and timely feedback to students is an important part of learning, or is important for learning. So with the first one, with self-regulation and self-regulatory skills, I think the biggest implication for school psychologists and educators, um, both because school psychologists do a lot with supporting students with self-regulation, but a lot of times I think teachers don't know how to support them with that. Um, I think it's important for both of those groups to remember that um, students don't always have the skills that are necessary to monitor their learning, to plan and organize their thinking, to complete some of those assignments that we think that they should know, and we assume that they do. So I think that they need educators and school psychologists. We can help them and support them by incorporating modeling and a lot more direct instruction approaches to um, to allow students to gain the skills to be able to work independently and complete those projects that we want them to do for the most part individually. So that could look like teachers maybe modeling what it would look like, the steps that, with think alouds of how would I go through the process of determining, um, for instance, if I was doing a project over the Wright brothers. One of my sons is doing that right now. He's only in second grade, so it's difficult. He's like, I have this project, but he doesn't know where to begin, what to start doing. So I could model it by doing a think aloud. Um, and showing him what thoughts are going through my mind when I'm creating this plan to organize the steps that I'm going to use to make this project. Something else that I think is important, which kind of goes with that example that I just gave, would be showing students how to break the tasks down into manageable chunks. So he has this big giant project and it's overwhelming, but the first step was, well, okay, let's decide what we're going to do it about. Well, what are your interests? Okay, now that we have a topic, what do we need? What information do we need to know? And where can we get that information? Um, and just showing them how to break those tasks down into pieces that they can work at, complete, and move on to the next thing. I think some of us assume that, okay, I'm going to give them this project and they'll just know how to get started. And it's not the case in a lot of circumstances. So this scaffolding approach allows students to acquire skills that they can later use to become self-directed learners. A lot of times we assume that, oh, well, he's a self-directed learner because he loves to learn. And this kid over here, he's not because he's just lazy. He needs extra push. But it might not be that he's lazy. It might be that he just doesn't know how to become a self-directed learner. Um, those skills don't necessarily develop spontaneously. We need to take a more direct approach to teaching it. So for principle 1, students' beliefs or perceptions about intelligence and ability affect their cognitive functioning and learning. This is a big one, I think, for educators, um, just because I think a lot of times the messages that we send to students about what intelligence is could become a self-fulfilling prophecy that would be not always beneficial. So, for instance, if they believe that their learning or their intelligence is innate, then students that struggle might just give up and say, well, it doesn't matter how hard I try, I'm never going to be able to achieve at a high level. And the students that attribute their success to also innate ability, well, I'm smart. My teachers always tell me I'm smart. My parents tell me I'm smart. When they encounter those challenges that'll come, and they experience failure, they might not know how to deal with that, and that might confirm a fear that maybe they're not as smart as they think they are. So I think we need to think and assess how we help students develop those perceptions about what intelligence is and what ability is. For school psychologists, I think it's important for us to create interventions that help students to see that in a large part, effort can contribute to their success, and that they do have some control in their own outcomes, their own learning outcomes. So yeah, because it's important. If students believe that their intelligence is something that's innate, that's something fixed, they're not going to spend extra time planning, monitoring, and adjusting their approaches to assignments and learning. I'm a C student, that's all I'm going to be. So why am I going to try to get that A if it's just not possible? So fostering an outlook of intelligence that's based on effort will promote more self-directed learning practices, which is what we want. The last one, Principle 6, clear, explanatory, and timely feedback to students is important for learning. This principle is important for school psychologists and educators because it highlights the implications for feedback on the fostering of self-directed learners. Students don't always measure their strengths and weaknesses accurately. So by giving them specific feedback, students are more equipped to evaluate their limitations and then adjust their strategies accordingly. So it just, with feedback and self-directed learners, I think if we want them to be independent, I think feedback can support that in a lot of ways, because your feedback would initially start with some goal that was set out for students, and then a task or practice that's based on the content. And then your feedback, if it's specific and targeted, would give the students information on how to adjust, how to self-adjust, and how to change what needs to be changed in order to reach that goal. But it has to be very specific. So for instance, if there's a writing task and my feedback is good job, B+, I didn't really give them any information on how to self-direct and self-monitor and then reach that A+. But if my feedback was more specific and I said something like, I love the way you caught the reader's attention at the beginning of the story with your action words and your details. That was a very good introduction. However, your conclusion was too brief, and you should summarize the points you made in the story to end, to refresh the reader's attention, to refresh their memory about what your story was. That sounded confusing. So, but basically what I'm saying is that if it's specific, then they'll know how to proceed. So if I were to say, with that particular person, they know, okay, my intro's good. I need to keep doing what I'm doing there. But how do I go forward? I need to work on my conclusion. So the teacher told me I needed to summarize. Okay, so I talked about this, this, and this. I need to incorporate that at the end. That feedback could even include a rubric, that had specific elements that I was looking for and that could guide the student to incorporate those. So that's the last one that I included as far as promoting self-directed learners, and I think it does have big implications for educators, but as well for school psychologists that come in to help those struggling students. So I think the more specific the feedback, um, the more tools we give students on how to change their own behaviors. And that is it.